Welcome to the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles, the podcast dedicated to the commercial food and culinary industry. My name is Pat Finley. I'm a lead master certified technician at General Parts Group. My goal is to shine a light on what I believe to be one of the most interesting and rewarding industries a field service technician can work in. I love the work I do, and I'm glad you're listening to this podcast. In this episode, we have Matt and Megan from Mechanical Environments in Denver, Colorado. We talk about proper notes in your calls and more. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles. Tonight, Jason Latimer, Richard Hagan, and myself have two very special guests on. We have Matt and Megan from Mechanical Environments. They do some really cool stuff on social media, and we're going to talk about notes, how to properly do your notes in a call, how to properly explain stuff so your customers can understand it, your office can understand it more. So, with that being said, Matt and Megan, thanks for joining the show. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Good. Glad I'm not on call.
Same.
True.
So you want to give us a little background on where you guys are from and what you guys do?
Yeah, so we're based in Denver, Colorado. We work a lot of the state, though. We try to stay out of the mountains. But we are strictly servicing the cannabis HVAC industry. So cannabis cultivations, indoor ag. We do dispensaries as well. So very niched in over here.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I remember we talked at the HVAC Tactical Awards, and you guys were talking about that. And my wife got a little excited. She may like that kind of stuff. I don't dabble, but she found it interesting. I find it interesting just because it's in the middle of the winter and you're still running AC. It's like, how's this work?
Yes.
It's negative 14 outside, and we're fixing ACs.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a very cool market. I know I got a friend, HVACJ604, I think, on Instagram, and he's from Canada, and he does a lot of like grow stuff, and he's like,
Nice.
he hates it when he has to go there because like if you're walking through there, it coats you. He's like, my tools smell like it. He's like, my uniforms are covered in it. He's like, I can't stand the smell of it every time he goes in there. So
They'll give you a hard time at the supply house if you came from a grow house. That's for sure.
Yeah, they do like to give you shit. But it's funny, though, because sometimes I'll go in just to collect a check. I'm there maybe 5 minutes, and I reek, and my car will stink for a week.
Mhm.
Other times I'll be in there 8 hours, full day. I can't smell myself. No one can smell me. It's wild.
That's nuts. That's cool. That's definitely probably a hopping environment and probably a ton of money to be made in it. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, they're in desperate need of good service. These guys you can't grow indoors without good air conditioning. So a lot of these facilities were built by someone's cousin for as cheap as possible, and there's just 146 pieces of equipment. Like something's always broken, always. So there's a lot of like just catering to their needs. When they have a need, everyone else understands that like, hey, someone else has a hot grow room, just like you do sometimes. We got to give them priority. So it's easy to coordinate by having everyone kind of in the same niche. Everyone understands that we're working towards the same goal.
So when you say hot grow room, that for us, it's like, hey, there's a walk-in down, like that takes precedent.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
But and how much money is in that walk-in that they could lose if the temperature isn't restored quickly? So we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in one flower room that could be lost because the temperature humidities are off. So the microbials in the room are attacking the plants and mold starts to grow.
Yeah.
Well, don't they normally grow in the heat outside? Is it?
They do.
Special?
But what makes cannabis HVAC different is that the load is the lights. So it's a lot like a server center, right? Where like it doesn't really matter if the sun is up or down. The load is the computers, right? Like the load is the grow lights. So if you don't compensate, they're using 1,000-watt lights, whether they're LED or not, usually 1,000 watts around there, and hundreds of them together, right? So the heat load, if your air conditioner goes down, it'll be 100, 120, 140, like really, really fast. If you don't have a way to like dim those lights out, it just turns into an oven, and plants don't make
the product. Gotcha.
So there's a true emergency where like comfort cooling, there's an emergency, but it's really like get them on the phone, tell them it can wait till tomorrow and they'll be okay. But this is more like you said, like a walk-in box where like, dude, the stakes are in there. Like you got to get here, so
That's crazy. That's I never thought of it that way. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, some of these grow rooms are freaking huge, and there's just tons and tons of plants in there. So I mean, it makes complete sense now. You explain it that way.
So how'd y'all get into that niche? I mean, because that's obviously awfully specific, and I mean, to me, it seems like probably a lot of fun, probably a lot of stress with that too, because like you said, a couple $100,000 can go down if you can't get to the customer in time. So how did y'all get into that?
So I used to work in sales distribution. So I used to be a territory sales manager, and I was working with a contractor that worked in grows. Eventually, after a few years of working with him, he offered me stupid money to come sell for him and help do operations. And, I couldn't say no. So I went. On my 7th day, he got his ass fired, and I called Matt, another contractor that I used to work with, because he was the only one who I knew that was smart enough, actually knew how HVAC worked versus all the trucks that I worked with, and knew cannabis. So
That's cool. That's pretty cool. So you went from selling it to servicing it. That's kind of, I don't normally people would go from like service to sales. It's just kind of
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but I was very much born with the how hard can it be gene. And I like to put, grown men to shame. So
sweet. So I put a post out earlier this week, said we're going to talk about technical storytelling. That's part of our job is explaining what we did. And I was looking for a guest. I had some people lined up, but it didn't really work out. They're not in the country. When they come in the country, they do stuff. They'll hop on an episode with me, but right now they're in the UK and it's a little late there for them to be hopping on a podcast. So, you said you'd come on. And I was like, sweet, let's have her on. So I'm excited to have you here. Now you guys have the the business side of it. Matt does, and are you just a technician, or are you a service manager, or what's your role, Megan?
You name it, I do it. Field, office, I'm communications, I'm dispatch, I'm scheduling, I'm invoicing, I'm parts, I'm purchasing, what else am I missing?
Yeah, everything.
You name it, I do it.
The notes are equally important to you then as the customer as anyone else. So Jason does a really good job, and I think Rich does a really good job, and I think I do a really good job. Now whether I do or not, it's to be determined. But so what do you guys expect from a technician's notes when they go out and do a job? What points do you want to see? What point is it too much? One point is it just verbal vomit, I guess is what you want to call it. Is just too much?
I don't think you can have too many notes personally.
Okay.
The more the better. So for us, first and foremost, for a technician to be able to do their job properly, the facility has to be onboarded properly. So when we walk into a facility that we've never been to, there's 50 to 100 plus pieces of equipment between HVAC equipment, dehumidifiers, humidifiers, whether they have remote sensors for controls, whatever it is. We need to document all that. And if the facility wasn't built properly, because most of these were built by truck and a truck, there is no unit name to it. So we build out custom nomenclatures that we can understand, so we know what room it is, what unit it is, and what unit number it is. So we very much expect every single unit label to be included, so we even know where to start. Because if we don't know what unit we worked on, we can't track it, nor does the customer understand what was done where. So first and foremost, labeling everything so we know what equipment we're working on is step one for us.
And a lot of that, because when you walk into the room, what you see is 10 white boxes with the same logo, and 5 units on the roof. And that just leads to confusion. It's really easy to what are we working on? Even from the service call perspective, they call and be like, hey, it's the one in the corner. By the time the service tech gets back, that guy's gone. Somebody else came back. Nobody knows. You spend 3 hours just figuring out what box is what box. Yeah. So the biggest secret weapon is the vinyl cutter. We use a vinyl cutter and we cut vinyl for everything. So everything gets a number, whether it's, fryer 1, 2, 3, 4 or DHU 1, 2, 3, 4 or air handler 3 or furnace 6. All documentation is centered around that nomenclature, right? What did you touch, right? Where were you, right? So you were in flower 3, unit 7, right? Is where all the notes can start from. Now everybody who's involved understands okay, we're talking about that unit,
That's a great point. I don't know about Rich and Jason, but we use a data tag. We have a 6-digit barcode. Every piece of equipment we work on is tagged with that. You put it in a place where you can see it from the outside, and it's tied to the model and serial number and location of that unit. So, I preach to my guys, hey, first thing you do when you get there, you talk to the manager, you look at the unit, you double check the equipment in the call, because the dispatcher will put equipment in there, so it's not right, and we got to change that. So change it. If it doesn't have a barcode, put a barcode on there and tag that. So you're saying start at the very beginning to make sure everything goes right. So, Rich, do you guys use a barcode system, or you guys use a tag system? What do you guys use?
Yeah, so we use the barcode tags with we call them Whaley numbers. So they'll start with WN, that stands for Whaley number. Then like ours will have a GV for Greenville, then it'll be 00582 whatever. We use those. Now the thing is, and I texted you about this I think before. I guess our official policy is to put them in the most awkward, can't find it place in ever. Like literally, I was told, oh, put it on the left side of the machine. I'm like, this fryer is jammed between two fryers. And then when the customer calls, you're gonna say, well, what's the Whaley number of the unit? I'm like, do y'all expect them to pull that fryer out and look at the Whaley number? So I started, and I trained most of the people that trained with me. Wherever you see the manufacturer label, put the Whaley number right there. So when they say, oh, it's the American range, they automatically see it's Whaley number, blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Nice.
Smart.
That's very smart. Because one of the things I like to do is when you enter the room, if you stand in the doorway, any piece of equipment you can see, I want you to be able to see that label from the doorway.
Nice.
That
A
was
lot of
it
it's
makes
mounted
it
at
more
the roof.
efficient.
Correct.
Yeah.
As efficient as we possibly can be.
Jason, do you guys utilize any kind of?
Yeah, we do QR codes, but I mean, anybody can scan the QR code, whether it's a customer, anybody with a phone can scan it, and it'll give you the model serial. And we do that for life cycle data, so we can best give the customer information on where they are along with their how much service they've put into or money they've put into the service after the warranty is completed. But I know a lot of places you want to put them where, like near the data plate and where it's visible. But if you ever seen license plate, when you put the sticker of 1 year after the next year after the next year, that's what service companies do to each other. And I think maybe your boss is telling you to hide it from so it doesn't get ripped off.
Videos going into Rationale Oven and deleting because Rationale you can put like a service number in there and it pops up on the screen when it says call for service. I got TikToks where I go in there and I delete their name and phone number and put mine in.
Horrible. It's you.
I may or may not have put the numbers of competing companies in there when the unit is on its last leg. Like, stop calling me. Stop calling me.
Right. Or the customers you no longer want to service. Put your worst enemies out there.
That's great. So it all starts with proper identification of the unit. I like that. I'm 100% on board. That just makes it easier for the next guy. If someone else is coming to park, someone else goes behind you, they do for sure know which piece of equipment you worked on and what was done to it. So that's a good point. I like that.
Yeah. And in addition to that, we'll make, I like to do Google Earth and make roof maps if a lot of equipment's on the roof, or room maps, because I've got rooms that, there's 4 split systems, 5 RTUs, and 17 dehumidifiers.
That's brilliant.
That's one room. Like, I need you to be efficient. I don't need you walking around the facility 2 hours trying to find that one unit. So here's the room map. You know exactly where you're going. You're not going to waste our time or the customer's time.
Yeah, both for dispatching and as a tool to, like you said, decipher notes from the field. Like what is F7R4? I mean, like, oh, it's this one in the corner. So like just having all the assets to put the map back together, whether you're on the creation side or the reading side, right?
That's a great point. I like that. So once identification is done, we know where everything's at. The guys know where they're going. Let's say if your dispatch creates a call and it just says unit not heating, what's your thoughts on, dispatch not giving thorough enough, decipher of what, is going on? You get there and it just says unit not heating. Well, it may not be turned on. It may have a blower. I mean, your dispatch plays a role in the notes as well. They need to try to get as much information from the customer as possible. Now, a lot of times customers aren't going to know, and we deal with third-party services a lot of time that call us for servicing places, and sometimes information gets lost. But what are you guys' thoughts on dispatch getting, proper, as much information as possible to help, technicians out?
Yeah.
I mean, ideally we'd get everything, but there's real versus ideal.
Okay.
So I think that just kind of comes down to like starting your troubleshooting process with a classic, like walk the ship. You know, like don't just jump right into a problem, like walk stern to bow, you know, like make sure, talk to the people, get the story, like let them talk, let them tell you, you know, like I always like to throw some stuff out, you know, be like, hey, was it making a weird noise? Did it go bump? You know, and they'll be like, no, actually it smelled funny, you know, like just draw as much out of people as you can. Cause I'd love to get, you know, dispatch, like, here's the whole story. Here's what's up. But like you said, they don't know. Somebody just called. They're like, it's not working. Get someone here right now. You know, so
we all know it with those emergencies. I just try to get everybody involved to get as much information as possible. I mean, we've all had that call, unit down. I'm like, it doesn't even say what kind of unit it is. I'm walking into a restaurant that has 57 pieces of equipment and unit down. Man, they're going to have 4 or 5 pieces down. I mean, you can't do me that way. And I'll refuse to run a call that way. I'm like, they're like, we'll call a customer. I'm like, why do I call a customer? You talk to them on the phone.
Well, and luckily, because we do service the same facilities over and over again, you know, we know who the site manager is, let's say, which would be the head cultivator for us, who they're so in tune with their systems. They'll know if a dehumidifier or an AC is down typically, and they can usually point you in the corner, in the direction of what it is. Sometimes, I mean, they're getting smart. We're training them as we go. So, is the unit moving air? Check the line set. Is it frozen? We walk through basics. Have you already tried to reset it, try and clear anything until we can get there? Like, our guys luckily are on it.
Yeah. But that's also part of why, like, we have stuck with the vinyl cutter versus like a QR code, because we want to put the QR codes, I think, closer to the thermostat, you know, so it's more like, here's the service history. The vinyl cutter is so that when you call, no matter who you are, you know, you're like, it's unit 8. You know, like I'm standing under it. It says 8 and it's raining on me. You know, like, cool, it's 8. Everyone involved knows it's 8. You know, and we started that like selfishly almost for the reason you said, where people would call and be like, it's the DHU, and there's 27 DHUs in here. So good luck.
Well, and for myself, I'm kind of anal and I want to track it on my end, let alone if I don't know what was worked on, how can I ever tell the customer what was worked on?
Yeah. But it's changed the way they call in now, because now they call in and be like, hey, F3 unit 7's not working, you know, and it just leads the conversation, you know, and it leads the invoice. It started as like, hey, please know the number when you call me. But everybody in the chain has been grateful that it happened, from, you know, the facility manager to the accounting department. You know, everybody's like, shit, I know what units, what now, you know? So,
So are managers willing to go on the roof, or I'm not sure where this equipment is, things like that?
Sometimes
we label it big on the disconnect on the roof, but a lot of the equipment is like at roof line in the building, right? So somebody shoved it in the corner, you know, and so we'll put a big like 3x8 inch tag on the bottom, and that's where the vinyl cutter is great, because you couldn't bring spray paint in, you know, like it's too messy. You can cut the vinyl and just slap whatever sticker on there, you know, and like with a half a day prep work and a few hours, you can have a whole facility mapped out in their colors, in their font, like whatever, you know.
So for the cost of their product, are they
corner thing? He said the corner like 6 times. I've noticed that. He keeps saying the corner is a corner. Is it like a story about something in the corner?
If you only knew how and where some of this equipment is shoved in, because we're the cleanup crew, basically. We didn't design these facilities and we did not install them. And most people didn't do proper load calculations to begin with, so they don't have enough cooling and enough dehumidification for their watering rates and their lights that are in the room. So one of the first things I do as a new customer is, okay, you're having problems. Let's run some quick load calculations to see if your HVAC is even capable of what your needs are. So yes, there's a lot of things shoved in the corners, over walkways. Like I said, there's 17 dehumidifiers for one room. That is already wall to wall, racks, floor to ceiling.
Grow rooms are out of control, because it's like maximize your square footage, right? So if it were up to them, it would be 100% plants on 3 or 4 levels
with no egress walkways.
The fire department comes in and is like, no, you know, like you will have an exit path, right? You will have room for the doors to open. So that's the only space available. And then these guys are coming in with like, it's almost like pallet racking, you know, where you go 2 or 3 levels high, but they move with a crank to the left and to the right. So we'll have 2 or 3 stories. So we're using every available square inch, you know, to just more lights, more plants, more lights, more plants. So the DHUs are just often it's just lining the egress path, which is like the perimeter and the corners, because that's all that's left. Everything else has been,
or they're in the hallway ducted in because there literally is no more room.
There's just no space
in the room.
So is everything considered critical pieces of equipment? Do they monitor any of this stuff like remotely? So you probably get a call in the middle of the night or something. Hey, it's getting hot.
Yes. So they do monitor everything: CO2, temperature, humidity, lights. They have sensors in the rooms to know if a light accidentally stayed on, because lights on, lights off period is very important for the cycles. Thermostat wise, I do have access to most of the facilities. So before we even get on site, I can hop on their controls and check and be like, okay, well, that unit's not working because none of the sensors are tied in that are inside the room. It's reading the hallway thermostat. So go change batteries in those sensors, or this one's reading 100 degrees. It's probably sitting on top of a light. When you guys, de-leaf the room, you didn't pull it off. So go move those sensors, go change these batteries, call me in 30 minutes, let me know how the room's doing.
So is that like a data logger where you can go back and see variances in temperatures and know when someone opened the door, and you can tell exactly what is kind of being done based on those temperatures and the readings?
You can get that involved.
It comes down to the cultivation, right? So we have some cultivators that live by the data, right? And everything is graphed, and you can see, like you said, like someone opened a door, down to that level. And then some facilities are running on like T4s that are flashing low battery, and like just the cheapest digital,
the T4 Honeywell.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
So some facilities are just making it work, and and then other facilities, you'll get the call at like 11:30 and be like, hey, I'm, rising in temperature. They can buy a little bit of time usually, right? So once you get into like full swing growing, like we're in the flower cycle where the load is the highest, it's 12 hours of light on, 12 hours of light off, right? So there's a period where there's no load, 12 hours a day, that if they can just turn the lights off and get there, right, they'll get through like one cycle. But you can't just keep that going, because the photo period's they needs to get back on fast. So it's not as critical as like, the vaccination refrigerator at the the hospital, where like it's now, you will get here now. But like when that grow room starts to climb, it's it's high priority, and we need to get there as quickly as possible. They're going to dim the lights or whatever, but it's going to affect total yield. It's going to they'd like to have it fixed right now, so
it's cool. So sorry, Pat, I know I'm getting away from the subject. This stuff's just interesting. I'm learning a bunch here.
I was like, man, we should have just had him on talk about this. So
I was gonna say we can talk for days.
I mean, to pull us back to where we were, the other big secret weapon that we use is company cam.
Yes.
So I don't know if you guys are using company cam at all, but like
telematics.
What's that?
Oh, for documenting. Gotcha. For collecting content.
Photos and videos, right? Like you cannot have enough photos and videos, both for what you're doing now and for like 6 months later when you're like, oh, what was that floor made of?
100%.
So what I'd like, the question originally was like, what text do you want? Like, I'd love for you to write me an essay, but what I'd love the most is for you to shoot me a 2-minute video and tell me like, okay, here's what went wrong, and I needed this part, and this was broken, and I redid these wires, and look how weird this is to get under here, and I had to fix these 3 and this, and that's why this gas valve took 8 hours.
Yeah.
Because then I can put whatever jargon you wrote, ideally as much as possible, but even if it's like fixed valve, I can use like the photos and the videos as kind of the glue to like, that's right. And the technician too can go back 6 months later and be like, oh, I do remember this job, right? I lost the bolt down the drain, or whatever it is. Like, that it's such a dumb video at the beginning of the process. You're like, why am I shooting so many videos? This is absolutely stupid, but you just push through it, and like, then everything is documented. It's time stamped when you were there. And then that data can go wherever you want, whether it's back to the dispatch for the next guy who comes behind you, whether it's to the invoice, so that as the accountant is like, what do you mean it was making a loud noise? They can just follow the link and be like, oh yeah, that was loud. So like, it's company cam is the glue that makes up for lack of data.
I think I've seen an advertisement for that recently on social media for company cam, because I know a lot of people are using XOI technology. I'm not sure if any of you guys are using it. Pat, Rich.
I don't know that one. XOI.
It's
XOI.
no, we don't use it. I don't use it. We just use Global Edge or RFS.
GE.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with our programming, you use GE too, right, Rich?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do what you're doing, but we just drop it in a file room for the most part. But it's mainly for internal purposes. It's not something we'd share with the customers. And XOI, I'd like to just try it out for the most part. But it's like you could have, I think, glasses on that has a camera while you're working, and I believe it collects the notes while you're talking, and then it dictates for you the nomenclature.
Crazy.
And somebody I think can
Cool.
tap in and help you, give you technical support, if I'm saying that correctly, and actually literally
That's cool.
live help you. But XOI is pretty dope. I'd like to just try it, but I'm just running in some circles that a lot of people use it. We don't use it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We'll have to try that.
We'll have
But
to
I'll have to
look into
shoot you a link for, I'll connect you
Yeah.
with a bunch of the XOI people.
Cool.
For sure. And Company Cam is free for one user, so you can try it out at no cost to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Company Cam is great because we include a link on every line item for our invoice. Every unit we touch comes with a Company Cam link. So you can see what was done. You can see what repairs were made. Like, you have full transparency of what we're saying was done, was actually done on site. So not only do you have a digital written record, you have a video record as well.
So the customer can see those videos. So
You pick and we cherry pick what they see.
I was
We
gonna say
do
it's
cherry
not
pick.
like a body cam and it's like
No, not that.
This? No, I was kidding.
And just to sum up Company Cam, in case anybody's unfamiliar, Company Cam is unlimited photo and video storage through a project format. So you have an unlimited, jobs, and it's unlimited photo storage and video storage.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's really where it came up. Like, my phones were just jamming full of photos, and I'm trying to move them around to Google Docs to give access to permissions to I mean, Company Cam's changing their price now, but it is incredibly affordable for unlimited anything. You know what I mean? And it's about how do I deal with these photos? Because what's great is it's on Company Cam. Get it off your phone, and you have it 3-4 years from now. Be like, oh man, remember we did this rough in? I used to have photos all this underground, gone. Yep. Company Cam's got all that.
Yeah.
So look into that. It made a lot of sense to transition to this is where all of our photo and video storage is going to live.
Documents. You can put documents.
That's how it branches back into estimating, because it's just a database that's easy to pull up on a computer, a tablet, a phone, in the field, in the office. It's just the ease of moving photos between anyone who needs them.
Sweet.
There's so much technology these days for this industry that's not utilized.
Yeah, it's amazing what's out there that we don't even use. It's like, oh, we could use this, and it makes sense. So I get it. I've heard about Company Cam for a while, and it's cool because it's tied to that location forever. So, it's always there. So it's cool. So let's talk about. Let's go back to notes a little bit. We'll be on your guys' talk forever about that kind of stuff. It's just interesting. It's different to us, so it's super interesting, and I get it. So let's start with Rich. You go out and you do a call. Walk us through how you lay out your notes and how you explain what you did, that kind of stuff.
So I will say this: my notes in the past used to be a lot better. I kind of unfortunately lowered my standards, to match where I'm at. It's not good reasoning, but whatever. Anyway, generally speaking, what I like to do is, we start with the date. We start with our our quote unquote employee ID, which is our initials, so they know who went out on the job. And then it'll be provided parts, labor, and service. And then I like to be as detailed as possible. So, trying to think of what call did I do today? I don't know. I did a bunch of stuff, but I just like to say, okay, found the fryer was, not, or, customer stated fryer was not lighting, checked fryer, found that the thermocouple was reading X, replaced thermocouple, lit fryer, fryer's now lighting, or, pilot's now holding, turn fryer on, set fryer to 350 degrees, observed fryer cycle 3 times properly, returned unit to service. That would be like a basic outline of what it would be. If I was working on something electrical, I try to say, okay, found incoming power at, A, B, C, and D, troubleshot, found, line, L2 was disconnected at the wall, reconnected L2, fired unit back up, took amp draw L1, L2, L3, checked L1, L2, L3 to ground again, observed unit run, observed unit cycle properly 3-4 times, whatever it was, returned unit to service. That's basically that's how the bulk of my notes are going to be.
Yeah, I'm the same way. So I just try to break down everything I did. If I run into an issue, I explain the issue, what took so long, what happened. If it's something that's going to run a little longer than normal. I don't like to put gas pressure is okay. If I check gas pressure, it's okay. I'm gonna put that number in there.
Yeah.
It's never amp draw okay, voltage okay. It's always going to be, 7.3 amps or 122 volts or 211 volts, whatever the voltage is. It's never okay. Okay is not an answer. Okay is a cop out for guys that are lazy and don't get the information, and they just say okay. So generally, I put in there the actual readings I get. What about you, Jason?
So for myself, it depends on the type of program you're using, because some programs I've used in the past prior to GE, there was an area to type in the L1, L2, L3 pressures and things like that. But for us, so with us, in my notes, I always put today's date, the model serial. And there's a reason why I do model serial, even though GE allows us to just attach the equipment. The reason I do that, I'll just tell you real quick, is that if anything's considered a callback, if a same piece of equipment's brought back up within 30 days, the system automatically attaches it back to you.
Yep.
But a lot of times, based on who took that information in the first place, and if that person's actually opening the equipment and verifying that is the correct model serial, and this Charleston cooler wasn't replaced with another Charleston cooler that looks identical, I always visually verify the model serial number, and then I always type it into my notes, because I don't want to assume somebody else was doing what they were supposed to do. I just verify everything. So today's date. Yeah, it is. It's because anytime something happens that I don't like, I create a redundancy to not have to deal with that again. So it's just the way I am. It's just only happen. I only have to be discomfort once, and I'm going to do something about it moving forward. And then now as a manager, unfortunately for my team, it's if something happens, now I create a new policy and a new standard, and then this is how we're doing it now, because I don't want that to happen again. So today's date, model serial number, and what's really important to me is that I put upon arrival, I spoke to. So the purpose I write of who I spoke to is for a few reasons. One, it verifies that the technician is practicing good customer service. So they didn't just walk in and just bolt over there, do something, leave, and then we have to hear from a customer that, hey, we saw someone here, we don't know what they did, they didn't introduce themselves. No, you need to always put the name of the person you spoke to. Doesn't mean that's the person you're going to check out with, because there's multiple shifts in most instances, but putting down who you spoke to when you arrive guarantees good customer service and good interaction. You got their name, you write it down, and then as you go back and interact with them, you can call them by their name, and that's just another level of good customer service. So today's date, model serial, who I spoke to, and then we go into what we found. So if the call is saying, hey, AC is not cooling, it's at 80 degrees. Cool. I'll go upstairs, check it out. Found drain pan full. So I'll investigate that. Drain line's full. I don't just say, hey, clear the drain line, the unit's working now. No, it's either it's not cooling because it tripped a flotation switch that cut it out, or the evaporator ended up getting frozen and it restricted the air. I want to put those kind of details, what I found, what I did about it, and how it's working now. It's a full story, beginning, middle, end. And then after that, you want to just put, unit, say the unit is working normal line, and then you want to initial it. For us, because you might not be the one who returns on a unit, I start it with the date and I end it with my initials, because if I'm not the one who returns on the unit because it was quoted or needs to be continued, someone else can start the new thread, and you should always sign that. So that's kind of my reasoning why I do what I do. And then that's, as a technician, it's not how every technician does it. It's my standards and how I do mine. But now that I've moved into management, that's how I like to train other people. And over the years, everyone that I have trained since I've been with the company several years, I'll see new technicians, and I'll see that if they start with upon arrival, I spoke to, and unit is working normally now, that's my nomenclature. So I know that person was trained by me.
That's great.
Yeah, I like it. I'm gonna start doing that. The model and serial number up front. I like that, because
I like
sometimes
all of that.
if someone touches it, they can change the stuff in Global Edge pretty easy. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and start doing that. I like that idea. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I'm on the same lines as you, Jason. I like to note immediately who called, who texted. That way, ownership, accounting, whoever sees the invoice knows that we were called out. We didn't just show up to do something for whatever reason. Like so and so called, and this is what they stated was the problem.
Yeah, their requests, because there's
Yes.
always 4 more things than
When
the
we
phone
show
call.
up. Yeah, there's always 4 more problems to deal with. So it's like, this is what we were called out here for. Upon arrival, this is what we found. So, and we go into detail of what was wrong, what got fixed, etc. And we'll go as far as we, had to pull the charge. We had to add a new filter dryer. We had to braze in a new part. We had to, do a pressure test. We had to do a deep vacuum that took 3 hours. We passed a decay test. We recharged to this amount, which was the factory recommended amount. It's all there. We do a very thorough write-up. So if somebody wants the details and wants to read it, it's there. I also like to put bullet points. So like, recharged unit, deep clean condenser coil, we added a TXV, whatever happened, here's bullet points of the parts that were replaced and the main services, including diagnostics. That way, if you're just a skimmer and you want to see at a glance what was done, especially for technician use and future calls, they don't have to sit there and read the whole invoice. They can just see the bullet points and get the gist.
So some of that is invoice formatting, and some of that is notes, where we do a lot of both, right? So the notes become the invoice. But Megan likes to invoice the way that she'd like to receive an invoice.
Yes.
Right. So that's kind of the ultimate, like, is it the way Megan would like to see it received, from her previous experience and out of industry, is this what you'd like to see on your, repair bill?
Where it's not 100% technical jargon. It's something where whoever's looking at it, whether it's accounting or ownership, can understand what was done to an extent. Like, sure, there's always going to be things that they don't understand. They don't know what that part is, but I'll even describe what a part does and why it's important. Just as we educate our clients so they get familiar with, the way we run things, and they can help understand and point us in the right direction in the future. Because again, we service the same facilities over and over again.
Yeah, so I agree with all that, and I like the detail you put in there. And I try to stress on the technicians that you got to remember. And I don't know with your industry if there's multiple shifts, multiple managers, that whatever you wrote, you need to be detailed in who you spoke to, because people don't check with each other when they leave shifts. Back in the day when I worked in hospitality, we'd had a log and we would write down what was going on for the day, and then that technician, that manager would come in and we'd chat and just kind of hand a baton off and go through the maintenance log and be like, all right, this was going on. People just bounce now. So, so you'll put down that a unit's not working right now, that it either needs to be quoted or continue to come back to further diagnose, or you ordered parts. And then another manager will come in and be like, this unit's not working, and they're like, was anybody even here? It's for multiple, not just the shift managers, but for their billing, like you said, and their administrators, and people are like, well, who approved this? You want to definitely say who approved this. And then the other things I want to say, I don't know if you do this, and this was something I made a video about recently, and what I call auditing the storytelling. And I like, and if you haven't seen it, I'll explain. I like to have a good understanding of the technician's comprehension by auditing at least 2 weeks of their notes. So I'll just log into their tablet and I'll look at all their notes. So we do hot side, cold side, beverage, electrical, building, install, everything. So I'll go and read all their notes and see each day, every note, and see if there's a consistent message. Are they sticking to the same format, like you were saying, a format of how you write your notes? And then that also tells me what the technician really does understand about what they're doing, because I'll read notes and I'm just like, well, what you did has nothing to do with the conclusion here, and I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense, and I don't know what bothers me more when I start reading notes. I'm like, wow, well, what you just did here is not going to last. It's not going to hold up. This is going to be a callback, or that was, that's a cheater's fix. But if you read their notes for the last 2 weeks, you'll see if they're BSing their way through it, that they're too, you don't want to get the call after it's a callback and now you're dealing with a billing issue. You want to be proactive and find out if what your technician understands about what they're doing. So it's I recommend that everybody audit their text notes, and it's not a gotcha moment, it's a coachable moment. And there might not be anything wrong. They might be doing a wonderful job, but you need to know it's your responsibility to know what your guys know, and not to wait until you're losing money because they didn't explain this correctly. And it could have been explained, and you could have saved crediting this customer. But I'm a big component of auditing people's notes.
Yeah, I like that fact. So my deal of notes is I like to explain them to Tim Kale. Sorry, is my boss. Actually, he chimed in. He said he wants his notes to be the way his grandmother could understand them. So
Absolutely.
I'm the same way. My notes are so thorough because, for one, it's going to go through a billing person that's never been in the field. They're not going to understand what we do as an industry. They're not going to get our lingo. Two, the managers aren't going to know our lingo. I mean, they may know we worked on that fryer, but they're not going to know what parts are, what we changed, what process was going through it. And also, manufacturers, like I said, if you spend too long on a job, manufacturers will kick it back. You don't do a good enough job explaining it. Joey Simon's in here. He's a service manager for a combi oven manufacturer. He'll tell you if the notes don't justify your time, he's not going to pay it. I mean, and you guys probably the same way. Your customers aren't going to pay a bill for someone that's there 6 hours to do, a 2-hour job. I mean, it's just
for gibberish.
And I tell guys, look, can you remember what you did on this site 3 months from now? And no one ever says yes. Exactly. No one ever remembered. So make the notes so that for 3 months from now, if you have to read it and you have a question, it's going to trigger a memory. It's going to trigger a response. You're going to understand what you did, and that way you can explain to someone else. So that's my big takeaway is with the guys. I want to make sure that they understand their notes and that anyone else reading the notes can get it. I mean, it's just some guys do a lot of technical stuff. I try to do technical stuff. I mean, I give a lot of information, readings, and stuff like that, but I don't try to put all the technical jargon in there, lingo. I want the customer to be able to understand it.
Yeah. It's an easy way to help future-proof your service too, because an old invoice, old notes is an easy way to look back on that equipment's history and get the gist of what's going on and where to check first. Because, maybe something didn't get approved on that unit and it's probably officially died, at this point, and you can start with that component first.
Do you guys put recommended repairs in your invoice, or do you make that like a separate estimate?
I put that if I feel that a unit is the cost of repairs outweighs the value, I'm definitely going to put that in the service notes and things like that, because it's our fiduciary responsibility to represent that company and be very honest. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, don't say things like that, and I've had an instance with a facilities manager who did not want certain things said in the service notes because the general managers maybe worked in a location that they didn't have new stuff, and they wanted anything that said condemn it, so unless you have a directive from somebody who's the one, hey, I'm the one who pays the bills, I'm the one who makes the approvals, and you just need to send it to me, then I always just put everything in there, just give them my honest assessment of what's going on. I always, a quote for a replacement always comes with a quote for a repair. What was that? It just popped up.
Always easy to fix when doing notes. It always has falling and punctuation.
I can contest to that. This one's bad about the punctuation.
Mine's horrible. I type too fast.
They make us type in all caps, and I don't know what that came from. It was years ago. They were like, the customer said they didn't understand, they didn't see it, so they said put it all in all caps, and I'm like, man, the spell check doesn't work with all caps.
Yeah, all caps.
I'm going through the same struggle, same exact thing. I'm like, if you would let me type it regular, autocorrect would fix 80% of my notes.
Yeah, I have to use Siri all the time. How do I spell this?
I add extra periods because it's too close to the space bar on my fat fingers. So instead of having spaces, my words will be like period instead of a space. And it's like, oh crap. And I'm like, I go back and it's like two whole sentences of none of periods. I'm like, this is great.
That's funny. All caps means yelling. That's true, Brian.
Yeah. Back to that last question.
I've said that and I've lost that battle. What'd you say, Rich?
My notes, I'm 100% blunt in my notes. And look, I mean, I've had facilities managers, like you said, try to say, don't say all that. And I'm like, dude, one, it's being honest. Two, it's covering myself, because What I don't want to do is omit A, B, and C from the notes to make you happy. And then it's like, oh, hey, okay, yeah, we replaced this part. Okay, but I told y'all 3 weeks ago we should do A, B, C, D, and E. Y'all only went for A and B, and this is where we're at now. So whenever I do notes, it's 100%. This is what is bad. This is what needs to be replaced. This is what should be replaced with it. And then when I'm doing an estimate, my estimate includes everything that's in line. So for example, if you got a blown element, I'm also going to quote you the contactor. I'm going to quote you, the switch. I'm going to quote you anything else that could be involved with that element is getting quoted. And I'll tell you, I'll say, look, this is the bad part. But if y'all only replace this part, there's a chance that 3 weeks from now, we're going to be replacing this other stuff. So it's either a whole new service call in 3 weeks or an extra 20 minutes of my time. And we do it now. But one way or the other, y'all are going to end up paying. And almost every time I submit something, I explain that to the customer. They're like, no, man, we appreciate that. Thank you. And they usually end up either approving it or they're like, hey, it's not worth fixing. We'll buy a new one. And another thing I'll do is when I think we're getting kind of high on the repair, I'll look online and say, hey, this exact model or the newer version of this model is, $8,000 and we're at, $4,300 in repairs. Y'all may want to consider just, buying a brand new one if you've got it in the budget. And I'll point that out to them up front just so they know, hey, these are all our options and everything's out on the table.
Yeah, we like to do the same. Like, here's your options. We can repair, we can replace, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I called in to do a second opinion on a piece of equipment for a customer. And they're like, yeah, we're $9,500 in. I'm like, you do realize the new unit's like $12,000, right? I'm like, what? And like,
yeah,
well, he's bringing back a $3,500 part. I'm like, you could have bought a new unit and saved yourself $1,000. Don't let him put that on
with a warranty, buddy.
With the new warranty, that's the key selling feature right there.
Yeah.
What are you doing, man?
Yeah, when we talk about simplifying things, I think the analogy I've used more than probably 1,000 times since I've been in the field is when explaining why this needs to be changed out with this. It's like headlights. You don't just change one. These two are inherent with each other. So
right.
I've had to follow up behind people in the past where, on a 200 series HP that they wanted they just quoted the elements. And I'm just like, right, one screw, drop the panel. There's the latching contactor and the heating contactor. Why in the world for an additional $200 would you not sell that with the $2,400 element just to find out that's actually what was really wrong with it? So, that sort of stuff drives me nuts, to Rich's point,
So Timothy puts, opinion on equipment without proof of operation should be kept to yourself. There are some customers that may have opted for email notifications and notes are sent as a job progresses. Opinions could create bad taste in customers' mouth. Yeah, I see some of that. I try to stay away from opinions. I mean, I try to give most of my stuff's fact-based,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's hard to – I mean, I've been doing this long enough. Jason's been doing this long enough. Rich has been doing it long enough. We know that, hey, if we change this, you really should change this too.
Yep.
I don't know, man. The thing we got to watch a lot of times in our notes is so the customer sees our notes, but what if it's a third-party service? We charge X amount of dollars. Third-party service, we bill them. They turn around and bill the customer such and such a percentage above that, and that's how they get paid. And I'm like, so you got to watch the dollar amount you put on stuff that way.
Yeah, but what to that point, Pat, I know there's a very big company that makes billions a year, and the fact that they use this program that we all have to log into, and then they're gonna hit them. But if you're making billions of years, they know that they're getting jacked up and whatnot. And in regards to what Rich said about being very honest, if you're hiring me to do a job, you are trusting me to be the subject expert there. And again, fiduciary responsibility. It's nothing I say is an opinion. It's all a professional recommendation. Take it for what it is, but leaving it out, it's a bad deal. It's what Rich is saying. It covers everyone. It's up to them if they want to say no, but the notes are going to be there. And then when it comes back in 2 weeks, they're not going to be like, well, you didn't say anything, so you need to comp that one, and we'll go with this quote. No, you're paying for all of it. 'cause I
No,
told
yeah.
you.
Yeah. Nothing brings me more joy when I can resend an invoice or an estimate. Like,
Yeah.
we suggested this 6 months ago. This
Yeah.
is on you.
Mhm.
Yep.
You can say no. It's a free country.
If it's an operational or safety issue, it's always mandatory. And then say you got indicator light out or something like that, always put that in there because, like you said, they're going to call you 2 weeks later. Well, this light doesn't work. Well, I told you about it, and you guys didn't want to pay for it. So.
Yeah, my
Or if
biggest
they-
concern
yeah.
is always doing what's right,
Mhm.
being able to keep my conscience clear.
Oh yeah,
And I mean that's how I try to do things. I had not that long ago. Well, it's been a good little bit actually, but customer that was like, well, can't you just tell the manufacturer it's under warranty because they're big and I'm small, and I'm like, listen here, dude. I said, so you cool with me coming in and telling you that these 4 parts are bad when all I got to do is replace this switch? No, of course not. I said, so what's the difference? And then he stopped and looked at me and said, you know what, you're right. Had no problem paying for it. But yeah, my main concern in anything I do is what's right. I mean, that's the bottom part of my logo here behind me that you can't really make out. It says, in all things, treat people right. So that's always what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put the whatever I believe is right is what's gonna be first and foremost.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We always do everything what's right for the customer, what's in their best interest, as long as it's safe.
Right.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
I was going to ask. I lost my train of thought. There was something you said earlier that I wanted. We'll talk about it after the show. It's not related, but I'll write that down.
So, is there ever a point where it's too much verbiage? Yes or no? Just you don't have to go into detail.
I would say no.
I'd say no, just because at the end, even if at the store level where it's just a manager and they're busy and some of them don't care, so it's what you found and that it's working now. That's the 2 things they want to see, what you found, what you did about it, and it's working now. So if they know that it's working now, they're going to go back to doing what they're doing. All that extra information we put in there, it needs to be in there because when something does happen, then they're going to want to take the time and be like, whoa, da, 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 da. I'm like, well, all that's in here. Nobody wants to be a lawyer until they want to do lawyer stuff, and they want to be detailed. So it's, I would say, for me, I would say just put it all in there. And I've gotten talked to where they're like, don't put RTU because they don't understand what an RTU is. Well, it's your job to educate your customers, So it's
the
it's
thing
about
is
the
too, right?
relationship.
There's that, and then because we talk about a lot about customer interaction, right? Your notes will say, I checked the thermopile and it was reading this and it indicated that and the other. But when you check out, you go to the manager, hey bro, the sensor was bad, I changed the sensor, now you're running. That's the communication part of it. And if you're not a technician that runs out the door and doesn't talk to anybody, then you can have that balance of, I'm going to make my notes simple, but I'm going to try to explain as much detail as possible. But in 15 seconds, you can explain to the manager exactly what you did. Hey, the expansion valve is bad and this and this and that, and they're looking at you confused, and you're like, look, there's a part in there that regulates how the Freon flows into the evaporator. That's bad. I'm ordering you a new one. I'll be back in a couple of days to change it. Okay, cool. The part inside is bad and it's good. Yeah. So when you have the communication aspect and the customer service and the customer interaction, that's what makes it easier to do the detailed notes, in my opinion.
Do you guys have, is there like a gatekeeper? Sorry, Pat. Is there do all of your invoices go through a single person on their way out the door, or does exactly what the tech writes what's sent to the customer?
Yes.
Yes, they get because we all use the same system. So they get one that doesn't have the prices. It'll just say the quantity of what was used, and it'll give part numbers and it'll give you labor hours, but it doesn't say price because those things are subject to change because different customers who have larger volumes of units might have a different different prices for what we've contracted them. So that sort of stuff goes back to the office because we don't know if there's credits and comps and different things like that, or warranty. So we don't talk money on those notes. So they do get an initial invoice that has the service notes, no billing notes. The billing notes is for what we see at the office. If you want to, say Billy forgot to do this, and you don't want to throw him under the bus in front of the customer, or the back room talk. But for what you're saying,
I say yes, because we have a gatekeeper But sometimes when I'm behind somebody and I'm checking out like notes that have already been invoiced, I'm like, y'all sent that to the customer. Wow. And I've done that on myself because not that long ago, I have notes and I did throw the technician under the bus where I don't make that a habit, but this guy has repeatedly, misdiagnosed compressors. And, I did a job where he changed 2 compressors. He didn't change the dryers. Then he's got the gall to go back and quote the customer a plugged cap tube on one of the units. Cap tube wasn't plugged. The dryer that he didn't change was plugged. So when I made the notes, it was some of it was, and had the dryers been changed, there would have not been a restriction, and this and that and the other, and those notes got sent out the same way too.
Yikes. I mean, one of the most important notes I feel like I always do is anytime a system's opened up, the filter dryer has to be changed.
That's the same way
every time.
Every time. No question.
we have. So it depends on the customer. A lot of times we have centralized billing people, and they just like skim the call and send it out. Man, if it's in there and it doesn't make sense, they don't know it doesn't make sense. They send it out. So you want to make sure your notes are pretty good. And we use the same program as Jason, but like the section that the customer sees as Jason's is the section we use in house, and then the section that Jason uses for in house, we actually send to the customer. It's backwards in our system. So I don't know how it's just.
You saw that screenshot of the old one I sent you. The billing on the bottom is in-house, and the service is what they see, and then
The bottom
top SO notes.
Ours is opposite. Ours is service comments. So we have SO comments, which is like general comments.
Yeah, what the dispatcher
flyer,
collected.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
Then we got service comments where we put, whatever we put, and then also where if you want to put, for example, United quoted the compressor for $1,800 or whatever that stuff, where the customer's not going to see that. And then the bill notes is what the customer.
See, I always felt strange about that when we got this program, because we just got this program like 4 years ago.
You better check with the
this
customers.
feels weird, but okay, I get that. I wanted to touch on something Rich said earlier about, being technical in the notes, but, keep it simple, stupid with the customer. Richard, the first time I seen him talk, he mentioned something about, when I say keep it simple, the customer will say something to him like, so was it low on Freon? And then Rich said, I don't care what you think, because to a lot of people, call all refrigerant Freon, right? Yeah. And Rich made a comment. I was just like, yeah, he's keeping it simple for the customer. He's not gonna, if that's what they hear, and they're like, was it low on Freon? And Rich is like, yeah, it's low on Freon, even though it's some other brand.
Yeah, and I got texted, refrigerant. That's a professional name. I'm like, I don't care what the professional name is. I'm like, I want the customer to understand what I did. And if the word Freon versus refrigerant is that big a deal to you, don't even talk to me right now, bro, because you're majoring in the minors. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to connect, man. But I always wanted to tell you, Rich, that I like that. I like that a lot.
I appreciate that.
I do it too.
In our world, I don't know about your guys' world, but in our world, I mean, you can go in McDonald's, there's 12 people that say they're managers. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. So, like, we check out with one of them, but most of the time, the people we check out in the restaurant is not the person paying the bill. So the person in the restaurant, I try to explain it to them in a way they understand it. I deal with I had some a lady, she was a manager, and some of the guys treated her like an idiot because she was a woman. And I'm not going to do it to nobody. I'm not going to make anybody feel dumb. That's just not me. I'm going to try to explain the way they understand it. And then explain it in the way the customer understands it. But in those notes, you can break it down however you want, because generally the person you talk to on site is not the person that's paying that bill.
Correct. Yeah. And that's one reason why we love coming to CAM, like we said, because not only do you have the written notes, but you have a visual. So you can watch and be walked through what happened, or you can hear that compressor that's, sounds like it's garbling metal in there. Like, there's no doubt about it.
And in the same way, the person who pays the bill is never at the grow, ever. And the person who let you in might have gone home and they don't really care. They have a job to do, and it's not manage you. So like they let you in, bye. So the company cam is just absolutely huge, because even if they were there, they're not getting on the roof. So that's going to put them right next to the compressor. Be like, all right, here we go. We're going to turn this on. 17 amps. You hear that? Like, we need to change this. Like
this ain't gonna last.
They could be on the beach in California and be like, cool, approved.
Matt, you've convinced me, man. I'm buying stock, buddy. Company cam.
Well, and we often don't have 14 managers like you guys deal with. Like there's
Yeah.
one shift, we deal with the same people over and over again, ownership or head cultivation typically. And oftentimes we have group chats, like everybody's all included. Even if somebody might not be there that day, they know what's going on and they might get a company cam link, but on our invoices, ownership, accounting, and the head of the department is usually on the invoice. So everybody has records of what happened and knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So that link is specific to that call.
To that call. Correct.
Company Cam, basically you select whatever you want and then make a gallery. And so you make a link to like whatever group of photos or videos is relevant to what you're talking about right this second, so like, well, whether it's an example of like, hey, let me show you what I did on this last job, grab, and Apple to Android it's just a pain to send photos anyway. So that alleviates that, like.
Well, the other nice thing too is in reverse, it's helped train our customers. I have customers who now will text me a video of what a unit sounds like or what's happening or what they see. So I'm fully aware of what's going on. I can have them run interference until we can get there. And, they're so trained at this point, a lot of our facilities, that it's so helpful.
I approve of that. I like that.
That's awesome because, man, we all do social media. Jason, Rich, and I, Megan, you do it as well. We record just about everything we do. We see something cool, we record it. We see something doing something weird, we want to show people, we record it. So, Company Cam just allows the customer to see it without, tagging them in your social media, I guess.
Yeah. And, there's some basic format that like we're just used to doing, but I would say like try to keep everything a minute or 2 minutes or less. Like long videos don't send well. No one cares. No one has interest for that. Like
watch it all.
Quick, fast, go. And then I always try to like start with a frame that proves you are where you are. Right. Just eliminate that from all possibility, right? Like start with the kitchen floor into the unit or start on the roof into the unit and try to hit on your way the label that we were just talking about, right? So each video before there's words starts with the location and the number. Now we'll talk about the compressor.
Sweet.
And then as our final step on invoicing, once the verbiage is good, we'll go grab the highlight reel, make a gallery, and then it lives with the invoice. So whether that invoice comes back up, a year, 2 years, or 6 months later, you can watch the relevant clips to that invoice as you're reading, that invoice. So
I've had so many accountants go out of their way to thank me because I know what unit was actually worked on. I can track, our assets on our end. So I know how much money we're putting into things, and I can start to track when it's time to replace versus repair versus just waiting for your opinion. So I never thought people would care so much about the way we do what we do.
Yeah.
But everybody involved is always so thankful.
People now they're like, we're going to get some popcorn and go to the office and watch your videos. This is great.
Yeah. Oh, especially when we do full roof sweeps on roof reports, like everything's documented.
That's cool. I like that. I'm going to look into that. Definitely pretty cool aspects.
It's super helpful down the road too, because there's so many times where we need to quote something up, but I don't remember what the roof is made of. Do I have, beams to be able to hang supports off of, etc. I can get in their account, pull up some old videos that, scan the roof just enough so I can see to do a proper quote without having to make a trip on site.
Yeah. Accidental information.
Yep.
Sweet. So I'm going to wrap it up because we're over an hour, but I like to give everyone a chance to plug their social media, plug their companies, plug, what they do, and, get that information out there. Maybe if someone's in the Denver, Colorado area and they're looking for a job, and they got experience in grow houses, maybe they can hit you guys up. You never know. Plus, you put out some pretty cool stuff on TikTok. I was impressed by the little pinhole leak video that piqued my interest. So,
yeah. So we're Mechanical Environments on TikTok, Instagram. You can find us on LinkedIn,
YouTube.
Yeah, we've got some YouTube content out there. We're not great at posting regularly, but we go in waves. Summer's slowing down, so hopefully we'll get back at it. The TikTok page in particular, I try to keep as a female perspective to kind of hit the female angle because we're very underrepresented in this, industry, and we need more of us. So
I agree.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. Have a good night.
And you guys are going to be, I'll ask after AHR. You guys are going to be at AHR?
Always.
Yep. And always? All right, we'll see you there. Me and Pat for sure.
Tactical awards.
Come on, Rich.
Yeah, can't wait.
All right. Yeah, I'll be talking to
I'll bring a jacket for you, Rich. and some earmuffs
I'll see. I'll look into it for real.
and some footies.
I mean, y'all done peer pressured me into getting a logo and all this other stuff, so y'all just gonna keep peer pressuring me. I got you.
Yeah, let's stay on them.
It's the best time to bitch at all your vendors. So and talk to the real people involved.
Sweet. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
If you guys would, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the podcast. It really helps us grow and helps us know which direction to move in. Also, if you have any suggestions for guests, please email me at commercialkitchenchronicles@gmail.com. Or if you want to be a guest, email me. Love to have you guys on. Thanks a lot. See you next week.